Thank you. Well, thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. It is such a joy to be with you this morning to celebrate an incredible milestone. And just as and I have also been incredibly excited about today to celebrate 41 years anniversary. And that's more than 4 decades of opening the world of communication, supporting one another, and showing what's possible when people with hearing loss come together in community. As we celebrate today, we also honor the vision and the dedication of the founder, Don Senga, whose leadership laid the foundation for the thriving community we see now. I'll also admit, and I mentioned to Anne in an email, I think October is the best month. And I might be a little biased because it's also my birthday month. I'll be turning 43 on October 26th. So I'm so excited. And so, in a way, the chapter and I are celebrating milestones together. And since Anne was so kind enough to invite me here today, I'd say she picked the perfect month to bring us all together. A month of anniversaries, birthdays, and new beginnings. So 41 for you, 43 for me, both reminders that with each passing year come new challenges, new growth, and new developments and new opportunities to strengthen our voices. And since we're celebrating, let me ask, and I may not be able to see everyone in the audience, but maybe Anne can help me out. Do we have anyone else here with an October birthday? Can you raise your hands? Any other October birthdays today in the room? Anyone? Oh, I see a hand. Evelyn, Evelyn. Wow, happy birthday to you, Evelyn.
And we have no birthday people in the room.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, happy birthday, Evelyn. So thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. We recognize you too. And it's such a joy to have you join us today for this presentation. October also holds a deeper meaning. Next week on October 10th, the world will mark World Mental Health Day, a reminder that stigma around hearing loss doesn't only affect how we see us, but also how others see us, but also how we see ourselves. And all month long, it's a National Disability Employment Awareness Month, also highlighting the importance of creating workplaces and communities where people with hearing loss can thrive without barriers. And I was listening to Anne just now as she was giving her opening comments. She talked about the incredible work that she's done along with Caroline and Audie, requesting tech support with Zoom to have some of the upgrades that we're enjoying here today. And this is something that a lot of workplaces use Zoom today. So again, it speaks to the incredible work, the advocacy that you all are doing, and also thank you, Anne, for your incredible leadership. So what better way to begin October than here with you, celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, awareness moments, while reflecting on this question: how do we move from silence and stigma to strength and advocacy in our lives and in our communities? That's the journey I look forward to exploring with you today. As I prepared for today, what stood out, or maybe I would say one of the things that stood out the most, were the voices of people whose lives this chapter has touched. Their reviews and stories are a powerful reminder of the difference that you are making. And so before we dive in, I want to pause and recognize something important. The Diablo Valley chapter has been living out this journey for decades. The impact you've had is truly inspiring. And don't just take my word for it. Let's take a look at what others have said about this chapter. As I was, like I mentioned, as I was preparing, there's so many amazing reviews, so many amazing comments that I found online, and I was deeply moved by as I was reading a lot of these. And I would not be able to read all here right now, but I highlighted some of those that stood out. For example, Barbara said, this chapter has been a beacon of support and education for me. The continual education process has been invaluable, and I have cherished the opportunities to help others navigate their hearing loss. That's powerful. You know, here we see we also have had support group meetings where we discuss challenges and strategies to alleviate the issues facing us. Here I see this is still so as a 99-year-old woman, what an amazing journey, life journey and story. And for Tilly to be a part of this community and to experience the value and the transformation she mentioned here. With profound hearing loss, I can confidently say that my life has been significantly enriched by my association with the HLAA Diablo Valley. And then down here, as it says, you know, the meetings have not just been informative, but also incredibly supportive. I found a community that understood my challenges and offered practical solutions. And the chapter president, Ann Thomas, was particularly instrumental in this process. I underline this empathy, knowledge, and unwavering support has been a beacon of light in the journey, in my journey with hearing loss. And I tell you, the very first moment, or the very first time I met Anne, I could resonate with her. I could feel that powerful connection. And so, and I want to thank you for your leadership, and also, like you mentioned in your opening comments, for the leadership of all those who came before you. I see this chapter, the leadership, as something that has continued for decades, one decade after another, all the way to 4 decades now and counting. And I know that the impact would continue, and so many more lives will be changed over the years and the decades as you continue to celebrate. I see another comment here from Connie. She says, the support, well, she talked about her husband who has severe hearing loss. He received tremendous support from the HLAA. The support he has received has also benefited myself and the rest of my family. I'm deeply grateful for this organization. I can definitely resonate with that comment too, because having me trying to explain really what hearing loss is, what that experience feels like to my wife, it took a while for her to really grasp and understand. And so in 2021, when I discovered the HLAA, it was a big breakthrough for me because I was able to learn a lot of things, and I would share a little bit about that in my presentation as we move along. But I found a community that truly understands what I was going through and the things I couldn't express or even know how to express. And that also helped me help my wife, Joy, to understand not what only I am experiencing, but what others with hearing loss are experiencing. And she too has been an incredible support for me over the years. And so here again, we have Kathy says, this nonprofit is a phenomenal group. Their service leaders are dedicated to keeping the HLAA chapter strong and vital. It makes the group very strong and vibrant. I would be lost without this chapter's help. And I would certainly admit to you that without the HLAA, had I not discovered the HLAA, I would not be here where I am today. I'm not sure how I would have coped all these years, because for 7 years after my hearing loss diagnosis in 2013, I felt I was alone in this journey. I did not know of any community or even anyone else out there with hearing loss. And so discovering the HLAA has been a profound impact in my life and in my growth in so many ways. And that's what your chapter is also doing in the lives of so many other people. So I just wanted to take this moment to celebrate you all and call out some of these. Again, I got these comments from greatnonprofit.org. There are a lot of other wonderful comments there, which again is a testament to your leadership and to each and every one of you who is a part of this chapter. Together, the community makes a big difference. And I just wanted to celebrate you on that extremely profound milestone. All right. So let's keep moving. How my journey started. I just mentioned that in 2013 is when I learned, and stigma is something that I had experienced in the past, but in a different way. As a young boy, as a 14-year-old, having to escape the war in my native country, Sierra Leone, it was truly devastating. It was very devastating experience for me, a young boy, and the journey that I took through the ocean in all the way to get into my destination to the Gambia in another West African country at that very young age, and having to be labeled as a refugee and the stigma that came with all of that. So I had experienced stigma before, but the stigma that comes with hearing loss is different. It is different, and it is more than a concept, because for many of us, it is personal. And so in 2013, I went to the campus clinic at Towson University for allergy symptoms. And while I was there, I mentioned to the doctor that, if he would check my ears, there's nothing wrong with it, at least nothing that I thought, but it was just different. Both my ears were different. I think it's one of those things that are just natural. And he was the third doctor that I had asked about this over the course of so many years. And so, sure enough, he checked my ears. He told me, your ears look good. There's no problem. It's clean. But then something profound happened. He mentioned that a hearing screening was being offered elsewhere on campus. I'd never had one before. I wasn't worried. I had no symptoms, or so I thought. But now I was just curious to learn more about these screenings. And so when I arrived at the hearing center, they handed me a headset and I put it on. Raise your hand when you hear a beep, they said. I nodded. So I waited and waited. A full minute passed, not a single sound. That silence, it changed everything. Another test confirmed what I never expected. I had moderately severe bilateral sensorineural hearing loss, something I'd been unknowingly living with for at least 10 years. I was able to trace it back based on everything that I learned from the audiologist, the impact, the effects of the hearing loss. I had no language for it, no roadmap, just shock and silence. What I didn't know then was that one of life's hardest truths, sometimes stigma hurts more than the diagnosis itself. And so for years, I wore a mask. Behind it, internalized stigma, shame, especially as a young man wearing hearing aids. I experienced isolation and the shaken sense of identity as I began to doubt myself. But I later learned this wasn't just my story. It's the silent journeys of many. How many of you have ever tried to hide your hearing loss? Raise your hands, please. Or maybe you felt hurt when someone didn't understand. You're not alone. There's a community ready to work with you. And this chapter is a very excellent example of a community that's here to journey with you. And if you part of this celebration, this 41st celebration, if you happen to be here for the first time, or maybe you're watching this live video for the first time, or maybe you're watching the replay later for the first time, know that there's a community out there to support you. There's this chapter and so many other HLAA chapters that are ready to work with you and journey with you so you don't have to journey alone. We've already seen some of the words, the impact, the testimonies, the reviews that so many members of this chapter have already shared, the impact that is possible. And so today we turn silence into strength by first understanding what stigma really feels like. Because stigma doesn't scream, sometimes it whispers. A few months into a new leadership role, I emailed my global team, the global team that I was working with, to share my hearing loss diagnosis many years ago. I wanted to be transparent to help them understand how best to communicate with me. And then later during break, a colleague walked up to me and he said, "Ib, are you going deaf?" Now, he probably meant well, but he didn't understand. And it hit me hard. It confirmed the fears I hadn't voiced. Some things that you might be familiar with too. That I'd be judged, that I'd be seen as less capable, treated differently. That's when stigma became real, not just a concept, but a weight that I carried. And so what did I do? I pulled back. I went quiet around others and within myself. Now, that moment and what followed is why I care so deeply about how stigma shows up in the workplace. But it doesn't end there. Stigma follows us home, into our communities, into our identity, something that I experienced. Feeling alone. And so, whether you're working or whether you're retired or newly diagnosed, you've probably felt its weight. So, let's talk about that invisible weight and how we begin to lift it. We often think about stigma as something external. I always used to see it that way. But what I have learned over the years in my journey is that most of the time it's silent, internal. It shows up in everyday moments. Feeling ashamed to wear hearing aids, even though they help. Withdrawing from social spaces, not by choice, but because it's exhausting to keep up. Shame around hearing aids is more common than you might think. A Forbes health survey found that nearly half of adults with hearing loss believe there's still a stigma attached to wearing hearing aids. And that feeling is even more common among younger adults. I remember the first time I wore my hearing aids in public. I kept looking behind me, wondering what people might be saying about me. Just looking over my shoulder, are people staring at me, judging? Do they think I'm broken? These are the voices that I was hearing, that was playing up in my head. And those people were busy minding their business. They probably didn't even realize I had a hearing aids on. But I was so caught up in my mind, so stressed out about others' perception of me. That's the weight of stigma. It's not just emotional, it's also mental, it's spiritual. It comes in so many different forms. A weight you carry that no one else sees it. And so for me, it wasn't just one moment. It was years of masking and staying quiet when what I really needed was to be heard. So, as I was reading these reviews that I shared with you about the impact of this chapter, the Diablo Valley chapter, I was extremely moved because it took me back to 2013 when I was diagnosed, and all these things that I have just shared, experiencing those and thinking I was alone. I did not know of anyone who experienced hearing loss. In fact, I did not even know hearing loss was a thing until I was diagnosed. Coming from West Africa, I never heard about hearing loss. I never heard people talk about it. And so this was completely new to me. You can imagine the confusion that I was facing and I was experiencing after my diagnosis. The disappointment, the discouragement, and experienced that for 7 years in grieving. And because I was dealing with everything on the inside, even my family, I did not share truly with them what I was experiencing. It's actually this year, I wrote a letter to my mom explaining to her what I had experienced over the years as a result of hearing loss. No one else had known until obviously, when I married my wife, Joy, in 2016, she was one of the only people, because she was able to talk to me to understand what's going on with me. And slowly she began to learn what I was experiencing. For 7 years, dealing with this alone, broken on the inside, until I discovered the HLAA. And that changed my life. Meeting people like you, meeting people like Anne, meeting so many other people. And I'm saying, had I known of a community like this in year one when I was diagnosed, oh, I would not have experienced all the hurt, the pain, all those voices that were speaking in my head. I would not have experienced that much of an impact had I had a community like this wonderful community that you have. And so when I was reading those comments about your chapter, I was deeply moved. I was very emotional about it because I said to myself, thank God there's a chapter like yours where people can come in, they can learn, they can share, inspire others about this challenge that we experience on a daily basis. And to see how the leadership of this chapter has evolved over the years, adding so much value, advocacy, information, communication, access, things like what Anne mentioned that she and Caroline, Odie, and so many others working hard tirelessly to make sure that you and me have accessibility. We can read the closed captioning in with all the advancement that technology can bring today. That's why we're celebrating your chapter today, because the impact is profound. The commitment, the time, the effort it takes to get this going on a daily basis where people come in and feel inspired, they feel empowered, they feel like I am not alone. I don't have to carry this weight alone. That's what this chapter is celebrating today. And that's what each and every one of you who are part of this chapter, I commend you for your commitment and for your service to one another. And I have been impacted too, because from the very first day I met Anne and we've communicated every time we talk, I feel that sense of love, of care, of empathy, of understanding. And that's what we celebrate. And so that's why I too am celebrating each and every one of you for your move to be a part of this community. And together we can bring others along with us into this community so that their lives too can be impacted. We can see somebody else and say, me too, I have been there. Maybe it's somebody else who is newly diagnosed with hearing loss, and they're looking for that voice to say, you're not alone. You can still live out your dreams. That's what I see this chapter doing. And so, as the challenges that I had mentioned, if any of these feels familiar, that's the weight, if you're experiencing that weight of stigma, or you're still dealing with internally the impact of hearing loss, that weight is never yours to carry alone. And we're going to talk about how you're going to start to break that cycle, to experience true transformation in your life, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're young, whether you're just newly diagnosed, or maybe you retired, you still have a great purpose in this world. And your dreams, no matter what your dreams are, if you've ever felt like the hearing loss is a limitation, that begins to change today with 5 steps, which we will get into. So stay encouraged. If you've been one of those people withdrawing from social gatherings because to avoid the struggle, that stops today. Because I am challenging you that you can. You're not alone. And we're going to talk about those strategies. If you've been fearful of being seen as less capable, that begins to change today. because I used to be there. I used to be so broken and fearful on the inside about all of these things. And where I am today is a testament to say that it is possible for you too. If you're someone who you hide your hearing loss, that begins to change today, because you would feel empowered and you would feel inspired that I have got the life to live. I'm going to enjoy my dreams. I'm going to live my life the way I want to live my life. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about me, or whether what they think about my cochlear implant or my hearing loss. I know who I am, and I am strong, and I am brave, and I am going to embrace that future that I see for myself and for my dreams. So, what are the steps that we begin to talk about? It starts with you. It starts with you. The first battle is quiet, like I already mentioned. It begins on the inside. The moment I was diagnosed with hearing loss, even before I stepped out of the hearing center, when I learned that I'm going to use hearing aids, the very first question I asked the audiologist, what can I do to avoid using hearing aids? Can I even have a surgery to avoid using hearing aids? No one had stigmatized me, or no one. I was the first person who started to feel the stigma within. I hadn't experienced it anywhere. All of a sudden, those voices started to speak inside of me. So before anything changes around you and me, something has to shift within you. You know, Helen Keller once said, what I am looking for is not out there, it is in me. You have to believe this. Hearing loss does not disqualify you from your dreams. It doesn't make you feel, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less. But keeping everything inside can. So that shift from silence to strength, it starts really with you stop carrying it alone. The voice in the head that says, is it what's that voice that's speaking in your head? Is it doubt? Is it fear? Is it shame? Anyone experience that? Fear, doubt, shame? Anyone? You can put in the chat. Feel free to use the chat as well. Some of your experiences, anything you resonate with. Because I think that we all have experienced some of this in one way, shape, or form. Whatever that is, challenge it. And I know it's not easy, but it starts with the very little steps that we take every single day consistently. And you begin to remind yourself, I am not alone. I still have a purpose. I can rise. And I can rise because I have a community here that's rising with me. And so you don't have to have it all figured out. But when you believe that your future is possible and you open to help, that's when everything begins to change. For 7 years, I was there. I was thinking everyone else is the problem. The people, how they see me or how I think they perceive me. Oh, I don't have the things that would make my life easy. If only I did not have hearing loss, I would have been doing XYZ. If only I didn't have hearing loss, I wouldn't have to struggle. All these voices that was playing inside of me. But when you start to choose to speak life into yourself and say, this is not for me alone. What can I do to change my mindset? And who can journey with me? Obviously, you have a powerful community here. What are some of the challenges, the very specific challenges that I'm experiencing that I need help with, that I can get that help to begin to live the life that I always envisioned for myself? It starts with you, because anyone else can try to help as much as possible. But a determined mind that says this begins to change today, that's when everything begins to change. And so we start to talk about the next step. Number 2, what's something else that can help in this journey is to talk to someone you trust for support. Here I am with my beautiful wife, Joy. She is very interesting how we met. I'll share with you all. I met her 21 years ago in community college in Baltimore, Maryland. I had no idea that I was even going to date her. And she was my best friend for 7 years. And then after 7 years, we started to talk. It felt very awkward, but she is truly such a joy. Because in those moments after we got married and dealing with all the sorrows with hearing loss, she truly took the time to understand me and start to turn those sorrows into joy. That's what's possible when you talk to someone that you can trust. Because stigma grows in silence. The impact of hearing loss, whatever that is for you, it grows in silence. And maybe you're shy, or maybe you're scared, or maybe you're thinking, what if they judge me? What if they don't understand me? But the truth is, the first time you open up is the first step to freedom. Talking to someone you trust, whether it's a therapist or a friend, a supervisor, or a loved one, isn't just about getting things off your chest. It's about refusing to carry that weight alone. Because when someone sees you, they support you, and they believe in your worth, they keep your hope alive. And who wouldn't want that? They remind you that your dreams still matter. And like I shared, this has been part of my journey. I have been there. I felt like my dreams were over when I was diagnosed. I started giving up on a lot of the things that I love to do, like speaking to college students, high school students, encouraging, inspiring them, or writing, the networking, the things that I love to do. I started giving up on that. I started saying to myself, I no longer belong in those places. But then when you find that one person that you trust, that you can open up to and share, and they remind you that, no, you're still powerful. Your voice still matters. The people who are out there, they're minding their business. Live the life that you are called to lead. And so Joy was that person for me in those times when I had all these voices playing in my head. She would sit with me for an hour and a half, just pouring words of encouragement. And I could barely talk. But luckily for me, she loves to talk. She loves to talk. And in that season, I really needed somebody who would. And when I finally was ready to rise, she was the first person to say, let's go. She even drove with me to my first HLAA convention in Florida, all the way from Georgia. And the bonus, she did 85% of the talking on that road trip too. I just love her, right? So when you get that person who is journeying with you, it's powerful. So let me ask you this question. Who is your one trusted person for support? And if you haven't found them, keep looking. And if you say, well, Ibrahim, I really don't have, maybe this is the first time you're in this community and you're saying, well, maybe Ibrahim, I really don't have anyone, then I have good news for you as well. Find a community that you can connect with. And I don't know, maybe if you don't mind, if you're online, if you don't mind, put in how long have you been a part of this chapter? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 30 years? It'll be interesting to see how long you've been a part of this chapter. Because stigma thrives in silence, but community breaks that silence. And again, we've seen a lot of the reviews already, some of the stories that you have already shared. The hope, how you found information, how you found connection with this community, how it changed your life. And the community not only changes your life, but it changes the lives of your loved ones too. They start to see the change in you and how you go about your daily business, and the confidence that just begins to rise. I see someone saying here 15 years being a member of this chapter. That's amazing. And so if this is the first time that you're connecting with this chapter, you have people who have been here for 15 years. They have certainly learned a lot. They certainly know the value of a community like this, and they can share with you. I'm sure they hear they're willing and happy to help you in your journey. That's what community is all about. And I'm sure there's so many other people. I saw one of the comments, one of the reviews, the woman said she's a 99-year-old woman. What an amazing life journey and story to hear that she's part of this community, and this community is it's a vital part of her journey. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I truly thank her for sharing her voice, because her voice matters. I see Gil posted on the chat. He says 13 years. If you're new here, then just connect with Jill. They would help you. That's why we have a community like this. That's why we can gather today to celebrate this chapter anniversary, 4 decades of impact and continuing. So community is powerful, whether it's the HLAA chapter or whether it's an employee resource group at work. Again, I never knew about that term. I learned about employee resource group when I attended my first HLAA convention in one of the breakout sessions. I'm like, wow, I never heard about that term before. That's what community does. You learn new things. So find a community, be a part of a vibrant community like this community here that we are part of today. Community offers encouragement. One of the communities that helped me when I first discovered the HLAA in 2021 was the HLAA private Facebook group. And so if you haven't been part of that group before and you actually have Facebook, I encourage you to check it out. It's a group where it's a private group, obviously, but you have people sharing their stories, or maybe they have questions. Questions about different hearing aids, or I just got diagnosed with hearing loss and I don't know what to do. I feel like I have lost everything. You have people who are willing to pour into you and share their stories, how they journeyed through that challenge to live the life that they truly enjoying, a vibrant life today that you can enjoy too. The community, it gives you strategies to navigate hard conversations, the words to express how you are feeling or what you are feeling, and perspective reminding you again that you are not alone. So if you're feeling, again, ashamed, afraid, confused, the community is there for you. That's where I met people who understood. No long explanations needed. And through them, I didn't just find support, I found strength. That strength too can help you break stigma. Knowing that you're not alone, you have an army journeying with you to press through and to break this. So if stigma has made you shrink or stay back silent, start reaching out, because community isn't just support, it's a strategy, and a powerful one. So we talk about it starts with you. Connect with someone you trust for support. Find a community. Now advocate. How do you begin to advocate for yourself? How do you begin to own your story? Because your story is powerful and it matters. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I never knew there was a word or term called self-advocacy until I joined the HLAA community. Like, oh, wow, okay, that's what that means. Now, how do I begin to advocate for myself? How do I begin to tell someone, I did not understand what you said? Can you please repeat yourself slowly so that I can understand you? But many times I'll just laugh when everyone else laughs, pretend that I understood what they said, right? And some of you may have experienced that too. Or maybe at work, advocating for something like accessibility, like closed captioning for virtual meetings. I did not know how to do it. I didn't even know how to go about that. I was just behind the scenes struggling on the inside and on the outside and mentally. And at the end of the day, I'm so drained and tired because of all the weight that I'm carrying, not just the stigma, but just, again, understanding speech. So, one of the powerful ways to push back against stigma is by learning to advocate for yourself clearly, confidently, and without apology. My first real experience with this was not at work, it was at home with my daughter Gloria. As you can see, she's my first child. Gloria is 7 years old. When she was 4 years old, I think was 4 years old. Yeah. Maybe 3 or 4 years old. I was carrying her and she was, well, even from when she was a baby and growing, every time I carry her, she tapping on my hearing aids. And then when she finally could talk and make sense of speech, she asked me, Daddy, what is this? So I had to explain to her, that's Daddy's hearing aids. It helps me understand you clearly. It helps me understand how to respond to you, how to show the love and care that you need so you don't feel like I'm dismissing you when you're talking to me. Maybe because I didn't understand if I did not have the hearing aids. And so over time, she grew to understand the significance of my hearing aid. And so there was a moment that changed my life because I was talking to her little brother, Nyake. He was probably around 3 years old, and I did not have my hearing aids on. I had it in the room on charge. And I could pick her words as she was speaking to me. Daddy, can I go get your hearing aids? I said, sure. Right. And that moved me, and she gets the hearing aids. I put it on because she observed that I was not understanding her little brother. I put the hearing aids on and I'm talking fine with my little brother. I'm understanding and I'm excited. And she looked at me, Daddy. She gives me a thumbs up. That's what self advocacy is. Helping others, sharing your story, helping others understand exactly what you're going through and the impact of what you're advocating for. It's powerful. You have a powerful story, and I commend Anne again with connecting with Caroline and with Zoom Tech and so many other advocacy milestones that this chapter has accomplished. Because it takes drive, it takes courage in many cases to really press forward to make that difference. And so, if I could explain it to a 4-year-old, then you and I could explain it to anyone at work, in the public, anywhere. That's advocacy, helping others see what you need to be heard and supported. And it's okay to start small. And last but not least, rise with strength and purpose. Stigma may try to write your story, but it doesn't get the final word. You do. Rising doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means deciding it would no longer hold you back. For me, rising with strength led me to discovering the HLAA. But it did not just start like that. It had to start with me first. I had to make the decision on the inside that it starts with me. If I need to move forward, if I have to move forward, if I know that I have these dreams and these goals that I always aspire to accomplish, it has to start with me. So that was the first step for me. The second step was to get some of this out of my chest. It was hard because I am somebody, and I just struggle to open up to others, to share things that are deeply personal and sometimes challenges that I'm hurting on the inside, right? We talk about mental health day coming up. That's another challenge that a lot of people experience. And especially with hearing loss too, it all connects in one way or the other. But finding the courage to open up to someone, that too helped me. Again, all these little steps were helpful. And then finding that community with HLAA where I learned about things like self-advocacy. I took that information and I acted upon it, starting at home with my little kids. And I saw the difference. I saw the impact. All of those things start to give me hope. All of those things try to revive my faith again, to believe that I can begin to dream again. And you too can, no matter where you are in your journey. And so when you go through all those phases, when you say, I can, I will, every single day, one step at a time, one little move at a time, one person that I trust at a time, this community that is so powerful and impactful and inspiring, you can begin to rise, and you will rise with strength and purpose to fully live out your dreams and the life that you have been called to live. And so I went through that journey, something that had I not gone through that journey, I was just living every day, one day at a time, doing just what I needed to do to get by to another day. I wasn't feeling fulfilled until I made that move, took those steps, and then the door opened for me. And then I joined the HLAA as a board member. And then that same year, 2021, I was appointed by the governor of Georgia to serve my community through the Georgia Commission for the Deaf or Hard of Hearing. When I look back at the journey, I say, thank God. God has been a part of my entire life journey. From that moment back in the 90s, escaping the war in the middle of the ocean, when I felt like that boat was going to sink, and we were screaming and praying and crying out to God, please don't leave us to die out here in the ocean. To having to go through that ordeal and having to go through the hearing loss and the shock that came with it, and the impact, devastating impact on my life for 7 years, thinking that I was alone, giving up on my dreams, to come out of that and to rise makes me believe that there is nothing that's impossible for you, regardless of what stage or what type of hearing loss you have. Once you believe on the inside, you can begin to rise with strength. When you begin to rise, once you make that decision, when you choose to rise, the doors would open for you. Not just for you, but for others too. when you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start living with purpose, so many things would change. I can walk down the street or walk in any hall or convention wherever I am. Today, I don't care who is looking at me. I no longer look back at my shoulder. I don't care what they think about me. Les Brown says, others' opinion of you is not your business. You got something worthwhile. You got a powerful mission. You got big dreams. Go about, live those dreams, enjoy your life. You are not broken. You're becoming whatever you want to become, that full version of yourself. And when you rise, your rise might be the reason someone else finds their own. And so, what if you're still struggling? I would say it's okay to feel the weight. You're not behind, you are human. Stigma can be challenged, it can be conquered. You have a powerful community that is working with you. So, you have the power to change the narrative, not just for yourself, but also for others walking this road too. So, here's my invitation to you: challenge your mindset, because how you see yourself shapes what's possible. Step into self advocacy. Speak up, educate others, and ask for what you need without apology. Connect with the community or reconnect with the community, because connection is your superpower in this journey. You can't carry it alone and live fully the life that you want to live. Dr. Mark Hyman said the power of community to create health is far greater than any physician, clinic, or hospital. And I would also say, walk boldly in purpose. Your story matters, whether you're working, whether you're retired, or mentoring someone that's just starting out. Maybe your purpose is advocacy, or offering hope to somebody who is newly diagnosed, or simply saying, I've been there too. That's how we rise from silence to strength. That's how we dismantle stigma, one voice at a time. And as we wrap up, I want to celebrate this moment again, your 41st anniversary, and so many more to come. My upcoming birthday on the 26th. I'm so excited. My kids, my 3-year-old Joshua, he's like, Daddy, we can't wait for your birthday, because they know our tradition here. Whenever there's a birthday, there's ice cream cake. So they look forward to the ice cream cake that we get to eat and celebrate. But also, besides the birthday, the many milestones we mark this month of October, like I shared at the beginning. These milestones remind us that growth, resilience, and purpose are not measured by what we've avoided, but by how we continue to move forward, even in the face of challenges. Hearing loss has taught me that true strength comes not from perfection or absence of the struggle. Because, truth be said, despite this, there are still struggles that I experience on a frequent basis. But those struggles don't have the power to control me or how I respond, because of everything I have learned. But from embracing your journey, using your voice, and lifting each other up along the way, you make a big difference. The Diablo Valley chapter has been doing exactly that for 41 years, creating connection, sharing knowledge, and transforming silence into strength. So my hope is that as we continue this journey together, we carry this spirit into every interaction. Every interaction. Think about it. Every interaction that you encounter, every workplace, and every community. Let's show the world how or that our value and contribution do not diminish because of hearing loss. They grow stronger when we stand together, support one another, and break that silence. So, happy anniversary again, Diablo Valley Chapter. And I know that so many more lives will be transformed because of the powerful work that you do every day. Thank you.
Oh my God, Ib, I don't know how to tell you what happens to me when I hear you. I hope everybody else in the room here and on Zoom was deeply moved and can see yourself in the story that Ib shared that was his story. And each one of us have our own stories. And I hope that all of you who are here, HLAA members of the Diablo Valley chapter who aren't here, who are on Zoom, who are elsewhere, know that their story counts too. And we need to share our own stories with each other and with the community. So I'd like to move now to questions. Does anybody have questions for Ib? And so everybody knows you have to speak into the microphone so that the audio goes to our hearing loop. Are there any questions? Oh, can you stand up too so everybody can see you, please?
So
And
thank you for your
identify
story. And I have a kind of a general question. Do you find that there are cultural differences in various countries and societies that are different, that receive us in a different way, perceive us and deal with us in a different way?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do. One of the first thing that struck me, and I just recently asked last year, actually this year, I learned about it is something that's called double stigma. And I learned that term from HLAA, somebody that I met in this community. And what I understood that to mean is that when we diagnosed with hearing loss, many of us experience the stigma that I talked about. But then other cultures view hearing loss as just not just their differences, like spiritual attributions to it. In some communities, they feel like somebody who has hearing loss, there's some spiritual aspect to it, right? And in West Africa, I was talking to one of the commissioners for the hearing loss here in the US. I think he's in Massachusetts right now. But he mentioned that when he experienced a deafness at the age of 16 in Nigeria, his parents actually hid him in the house and prevented him from going out in public because they did not want him to know that they did not want anyone else to know that he has hearing loss. Some people just view that from a spiritual aspect that it's just not good, right? So here you have somebody experiencing hearing loss and dealing with like, okay, I have to deal with this for the rest of my life, and this is public perception. But then you have the spiritual, cultural aspect as well, where it's viewed in a certain way. If you have this, I want to stay away from you because something spiritual is wrong with you, right? And so there's a weight that comes with that, and it can be very challenging. And I can certainly tell you too, is that once the first time that I was diagnosed, a lot of these start to come to my mind, like, oh my God, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with this in my community where there's other people from my native country or from Africa to see me with hearing aids, what would their perception be? So that even had a bigger toll on me. And so, yes, there are cultural differences that come to play, and it can be heavy. And that's why a community is very important, because I got to learn from this community too, the HLA community, a lot of things that I did not know that really empowered me to embrace who I am and to go out there and to be all that I have called to be in this world and not worry about that. And I can certainly tell you that from the first encounter, which was, I think, a reasonable question, because I told you my colleague when I got that job and I made the announcement to my colleagues globally that, again, I have hearing loss, and he walked to me and he asked the question, so are you going deaf? I could see the sincerity in his question. He just did not know. And so how did I respond then? I already shared how I responded. I shrank, I went back. But today, should that happen, I would respond differently. I would take the time to share my story, explain and educate to that person truly what this means, because that information is really powerful. And beyond that, I would also say, with everything that I have gathered from a community like the HLAA, should I come across communities where there are these cultural challenges, I walk into my communities today, for, from my native country, people, wherever. It really doesn't matter who is around. It doesn't bother me anymore, because it's, and it did not happen one day. It did not happen in 1 year. It's that consistent determination and speaking to myself, shifting the mindset that it is possible for me to get through this and truly live my life, focus on what I want to do, and don't worry about what anyone else thinks, because I cannot change anyone. I can only share with them what I can share, which is my story. I can educate them, and I can tell them how I am living my life. Like, I'm very impactful person in the community, and I am doing great in the things that I do. And that should inspire them, but it shouldn't bother us.
Thanks, Ib. Any other questions? Alan, are there any questions on Zoom? No.
So it's me again. I have friends who are disabled in a visible way. And what is the different approach for dealing with people that walk into a room like this or a room anywhere that are disabled in visible or an invisible way that we are disabled? And what is society, what should society be doing? What should we be doing to make this more visible?
Yeah, that's a great question I've been asking myself. My perception is that when, like, the visible disabilities, I feel like there's more response to those people. And one example that comes to mind is having to advocate for people for hearing loops in my church, for example. That's been a big challenge in my former church. There's so much information that I shared to educate. I shared my story. Again, some of these things that I share here, like advocacy, share a story, yes, but then we still encounter challenges along the way. I think the big thing is we don't give up in this journey, right? So all that while trying to advocate for installation of hearing loops. However, if somebody, just a scenario that I'm about to paint out there, if somebody with a wheelchair, for example, comes to the church and there's no ramp, right? And that person wants to become a member of the church, what's the possibility that all actually, like, the support to get either like an elevator or a ramp, right? I haven't seen much of a challenge in that aspect compared to us. I think it's the invisible. I have been struggling with this. I have been learning about it, right? It's an invisible disability. It took a while for me to understand. I would say we continue to press, to continue to persevere. We continue to persist and endure in our advocacy work, right? And I'm sure many of you, and you as well, I'm sure you may have experienced this. You don't just advocate one day, say we need captions, or and then one day and that's it. It's that consistent follow-up and say, I'm not going to give up. And if all else fails in one area, that shouldn't discourage us from pursuing the same advocacy in other areas, meaning other areas like if it doesn't happen in this institution or this organization, that shouldn't discourage me from pursuing that in another organization that I happen to be a part of one way or the other, where we see the need. So I really think that a lot of people don't understand in terms of responding to the advocacy. I have seen where such circumstances where the response is very positive when maybe, for example, the leadership in that particular space, area, organization is somebody who also experienced hearing loss. Because in my advocacy, I have come across that where I went somewhere to advocate at the state level in Georgia, and the person said, I get it. Like I have my hearing aids too. And so I understand what we're talking about. And it went really cool, really good. There are other areas where people really don't know, but they want to make decisions for people like you and me, especially when it comes to things like hearing loop and say the other alternative without really truly caring to understand. And I have seen that, and it's not always been good, but I think that should really encourage us to not give up, to really keep pressing